Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Total Nonstop Podcast. Today, we're going to do a SmackDown review, something that we have not done yet on the show. Let me go ahead and bring up my good co-host here, Mr. Moose Man. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing well. Yes, we're going to be talking about SmackDown, October the 23rd, 2020.
What's up, Mr. Justin Hicks? My other co-host for Saturday show, kick-ass co-host. I actually got two good co-hosts here at Pinfall. We're going to talk about SmackDown. The reason I decided to do SmackDown, like I have said before, we have not done a SmackDown yet after all these Total Nonstop podcasts. All the votes that never got it, which in all fairness, we're on Thursday. So, by then, like the pay-per-view's done happen Sunday from this show that we're going to talk about. But it is what it is. I want to talk about it. We're going to go ahead and start it off. As me and Gene was talking about earlier, Kevin Owens started off the show with the KO show. He brought out Daniel Bryan. They talked about how they're going to look forward to facing each other again and in the future. And KO asked Bryan what he wants to see on SmackDown. Bryan talked about wanting to see the best young showcased on the show. There was actually a really funny line in this because Owens said he brought Bryan out to talk about the tag team titles and mentioned how he has never been a tag team champion. And Bryan said it's because KO, you betrayed a lot of your friends.
Yeah. And then he starts stuttering like, and then Daniel goes, all of them.
All of them. Every one of them, even Chris Jericho. And I think everybody was thinking Chris would always be the one that turned. I ain't going to lie, dude. That was a heartbreaking moment.
Yeah.
Say, hey, why is my name on this list? I was like, no, because I loved them together, dude. They were hilarious.
And then we had Ziggler and Rude come on out and talk about how they were some great tag team.
Yeah, that's just they could be. I mean, they really could.
They couldn't.
They really could be. What is this?
If used correctly in this whole thing, and then the Street Profits came on. Hey, Josh.
What am I, chopped liver? Oh. You're the El Presidente. How are you chopped liver?
There you go. And then Street Profits.
You don't chop your liver. You have someone chop it and bring it to you. That's why you're the president. Right. So.
And then we had the Street Profits come out. They had the lovely Ditzy Tups falling all the time now.
I'm tired of that entrance. I think it would work better if it had a live crowd or something. But it just I don't know. It was cool the first couple of times, and after that, what I always think about every time I say that, I bet you the guys in the back are like, I'm so sick of picking up them damn cups. Because they have to pick them bitches up every month, and there's a bunch of them too that fall. There's a pretty good bit.
Small, big,
yeah, they're all different sizes. I bet you they get sick of picking that shit up.
They just sweep it off to the side now and where the lights are.
The first match I got up here, Gene, is Bianca versus Selena.
Selena Vega, yep. But actually, with this whole thing, it came into an improv. That thing didn't break into an improv tag turmoil match.
Yeah, they're always like selling Bianca like the tracks, the superstar that she's kind of like the Mr. Perfect, I guess you could kind of say, type character, where she can kind of do everything, and she's really badass. I've been saying for a while, this is why I kind of I did laugh kind of in El Presidente's face last night when he said WWE had a joke of a women's division. I don't see it. I think that they got really good women there. They just, because they are always building around only 4 of them.
You don't see the other ones.
They still got the best women division there is on television. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So
comparing it right now, where you have no Bailey, or where you have no the man Becky Lynch, you have no Charlotte Flair. Now Bailey and Banks are sort of out of the mix. Banks got her title, but they're sort of out of the play. Like I said over on Smack or on Raw, I would really like to see Lacey Evans. She needs a good run. That would be perfect for her.
Yeah, but to me, Lacey is just such a bad in the ring. I ain't gonna say that she's terrible, but she's definitely got some improvement to do in certain areas. I guess you could say her ring vision is not good.
Yeah.
She has a tendency of being in bad spots or not in the right spot at the right time. Or I haven't seen one where they hook her right leg and she stuck her left leg up.
And then over on SmackDown, the one we're talking about, Bianca Belair, I think it's about time to showcase and highlight her. I think it's the best time to have.
I don't care if they just put her in a tag. If they just give her a tag title, because she never had the NXT title. So every time I thought they was going to give it to her, they never would go ahead and push her the rest of the way. So I just want to see her with some kind of belt on her, man. She deserves it. Next up, you had. I don't even want to talk about this. The only reason I'll talk about this is for one reason. Next up, you got Chad Gable versus Lars Sullivan. I could give a shit less about Lars Sullivan, okay? What little bit I like Lars Sullivan went out the window like a long time ago, okay? Because to me, he buried his own grave, dig his own grave with me, some of the shit he pulled. So
yeah, but Lars wins. But the highlight out of this was let's call him Shorty G at the time. Shorty G says, I quit. They get him into the back. He's like, what are you talking about? And he goes, I quit being Shorty G. There's a man that has a long list of accolades, and it's not Shorty G. It's Chad freaking Gable.
The only thing about this is that I want to get excited for it. But if you remember, not too long before they started calling him Shorty G, they did this vignette about him that just showed you what a badass he could be. And then they end up calling him Shorty G right after that. I got so crunk for that shit, man. I don't know if anybody's looking for it, go and see if you can find it on YouTube or something. Because that vignette was badass. And I was like, oh, shit, yeah. Because I loved when he was taken serious in the tag team with Jordan, And I got so crunk for it, man. Then they ended up calling him Shorty G, and it pissed me off. So, I just don't want to get too excited because I just feel like it's like a tease. Because it's like, okay, they're going to let him cut loose, and then they're like, we're going to get some other lame-ass version of him. or something, or he's going to reinvent himself and never do something. That. Next up, I have Bailey, who basically talked all her smack. We know that Bailey is not the champion no more.
This was the night where they talked a bunch of smack, and Sasha got Bailey to sign the contract just before Hell in a Cell, as we already know. I do, going back to that though, that was you can look at it, the most big thing from that was that seeing Bailey in the chair.
I guess, Justin, that's a way to put it, but I mean, I guess we could say that that's one way to put it. Someone did make the joke that with no crowd, he didn't have to worry about his anxiety no more.
Yeah.
But he just can't stay out of trouble. Before we go any further, we're going to take a real quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. That's the Paradigm Shelf. Catch it every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central. Okay, next up, I got Law and Otis is what they've got it labeled here. This was actually a pretty cool little segment. I wasn't mad about this. This was actually pretty cool with the JBL. Out of all people, though, JBL being the judge.
But it was a segment to get JBL, Ron Simmons, and Theodore Long, all original SmackDown guys, to show up on SmackDown. I love how Theodore Long was the bailiff, or not the bailiff, but the buddy taking in all the notes. And when Asuka goes off, who's on Raw, may I say, but she come on Law and Otis and starts talking all this Japanese smack. And I love JBL looks at her and goes, "Did you get that?" Because I got every bit of that, player.
Every bit of that, yeah. For some that don't know, I think this was a little bit of a poke at there's the stories of Wrestler's Court that used to happen in the back where the Undertaker was always the judge. And JBL and Ron Simmons have been on the end of that many times. There's many stories of JBL because he was such a bully in the back, And they used to always say the way that you could always pay off the Undertaker was a bottle of Jack Daniels. Before you had Wrestling Court, and that's usually how the punishment was. Like one time there was something happened and they made the APA made the dude buy the APA like 2 or 3 cases of beer, shit like that, So it's pretty funny. They did this segment, and of course, in this segment, JBL ends up being the dirty judge and gets paid off basically, and he gives Miz his shot at the Money in the Bank shot. So it was him versus Otis. We all know what happened at Hell in a Cell, of course. Tucker turned his back on Otis and struck him, and Miz gets the victory. Ends up with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Some people don't like it. I like it from the standpoint that, like I said, the Miz can make anything relevant. I think any belt that you put on him, it don't bury Tucker, because I figure Tucker would end up getting buried. But but some of it don't make no sense, because didn't you say that Tucker got sent back to SmackDown?
Yeah, where Otis is, yeah.
So that was stupid. You shouldn't have split them up in the first damn place. You got limited tag teams in the WWE. You got the biggest joke of a tag team division that's on television, And I don't care if it's. I bet you could go to Ring of Honor and they're damn. And I ain't even watched Ring of Honor forever, but I bet you their tag team division's more damn entertaining than WWE's is, because WWE has a horrible tag team division.
I'll say this much: out of any place has a tag division, I would rather watch an AEW tag match or an Impact tag match over the WWE. At least their tag is sort of done correct. But with this Law Notice, and as we already know, I'm not griping that Miz has the Money in the Bank briefcase. And it looks like Raw's already working the angle with the Fiend and Randy.
Is this a way to turn Morrison on him?
I think this would be a perfect way of doing it.
Or turning the Miz the other way, or whatever, however they want to play it. They can play it the other way.
Yeah.
If they want to give the Miz the belt, it's kind of like almost the KO Jericho storyline. That's basically how that happened.
Yeah.
He wins the belt, then he don't need Morrison no more. Right. Like now I'm bigger than you. I don't need you. Or it could be the other way where Morrison's jealous and play, it's about you, Miz. It's always about you. There's a couple of ways they could play that shit. So
it's especially the funny name Johnny Drip Drip,
Johnny
you hear that all the time coming from Corey Graves. Johnny Drip Drip is just there for moral support. I'm like,
I will say I don't mind that him and Miz got back together like that, but the thing about it is that his return to me was one of those disappointing returns.
Yeah.
I really thought they was going to do something with Morrison when he showed back up, because everybody was like, that was almost like a CM Punk type figure, because people still talked about him for years when he was in Lucha Underground and everything. But it's like, once you bring back Morrison, they need to bring back Morrison.
And it's because Morrison stayed relevant. There's the exact same idea as CM Punk. He stayed relevant. Johnny Mundo, Johnny Morrison, Johnny Impact, whatever you want to call him, he stayed relevant enough because he was in Ring of Honor, he was in Lucha Underground, Impact. He was making waves, and people were still being able to see him. Where you would get some guys like an MVP, for example. Not saying that it's not great to see him back in the WWE when he came back at Royal Rumble, but he wasn't enough. Like, there was not enough relevancy where you bring him back to like, oh, wow. But yet you brought back Johnny Morrison and gave him nothing.
Yeah. Well, at all fairness, they didn't give MVP much. I think he kind of created the Hurt Business from his own look. He probably went in there and Vince was like, hell, I don't give a damn. Let him do whatever he wants to do. And then it popped off and he was like, see, I'm a genius. Knowing it was really MVP that probably come up with the idea.
Yeah.
Next up, you got Murphy versus Seth Rollins.
This one was actually not too bad. Like, it was good back and forth.
I can actually see him and Seth having some really, really good matches. I mean, honestly, if they wanted to set it up that way for a while.
And I like the story. In a way, I like the story that they're proposing with, Murphy was always the follower to Seth being the Messiah. You were just this follower. And also tying in, not meaning to, but they're tying in Ray and Dominic and Ray's daughter, and how they're playing it. It's like she likes Murphy now. Murphy's being all good and everything. She doesn't want Murphy to get hurt, and they don't really want to do anything because all this time from previous, they've had all this bad blood, and they're just trying to let it go. And she's pulling them in. So I like how they're doing it. I like how the angle that they're running it. I would have to say, in all, what's really got SmackDown going here is they're doing okay stories. They're not the greatest. I'm not saying, oh my God, super great stories, but they're building them enough that it makes certain, not saying all of them, but makes certain people interesting. And if they keep that up, you can turn your mediocre to looking like better stars.
Also, I mean, I love Buddy Murphy anyway. Some people know that about me. I've said it before. I went to watch SmackDown live just so I could watch 205 afterwards to watch Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander tear the house down, man.
Yep.
And they did, dude. I mean, it was the best match of the night. Those two come out and tore the house down. And I remember fans that had stuck around, because you got those, I guess you could say, mainstream fans that probably didn't pay attention to 205 live. and they ended up staying after some of them did and watching that match, and was like, holy shit. You know, I could hear him talking. I was like, yeah, that's why I came, was for those two right there alone, you know?
Yeah.
So he's very good. Next up you have Roman Reigns in a segment where he's going to name his stipulation. And of course, everybody knows he names the I Quit. In a Hell in a Cell, I didn't quite understand this logic.
The thing about this one was how it comes out is, you know, Roman comes out. They're about to call him the tribal chief. He's coming out with what the stipulation would be after the I Quit match. It was going to be like, what would happen if Jey Uso, what would be the consequence? And all of a sudden, comes up on the screen is what he thought was Jey in his room, talking about his water and the tribal fruit. And really, it's Jimmy, and Jay's behind him. They beat him up, and he runs back up. And then Roman just basically sort of says, he goes, because you're disrespecting, you're thinking this is funny, this is how it's going to go. If you beat me, then you're out. You're out of the family. Your family doesn't mean nothing. Your brother, because you brought him into, they're all out. But if I beat you, when I beat you, you're going to be indentured to me, because if not, and you don't respect me, you're still going to be out of the family. So it was like, no matter
what cracked me up when he said it, the first thing that went through my mind was like, Day, you fired. Roach, you fired too. Like, that's what it went through my mind when I heard him say that shit. I don't care what anybody says. I hated Roman. I'll be the first to admit, I'm not a Roman fan, but they have sucked me in with this damn storyline with him and Heyman and this Samoan thing that they're doing. And I just don't know where they're exactly going with it. I am really hoping it's not Roman versus The Rock. I just don't care to see that, but if it is, I guess it is. So, I mean, everybody knows, of course, Roman retained.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who would think that he wasn't going to retain.
But no, the build to it, and even this whole thing has been really well. And I think what this can open up now, and this is more of a speculation, if anything. My speculation here would be, now that you have Miz, Money in the Bank briefcase holder, you can really start tying that in, because now you've got two lackeys. You have Roman has his two lackeys. He has Jim and Jey Uso. Why not have them keep going out after Miz and Morrison from time to time, testing them? Because he's the guy that's got the briefcase. He's the guy that he's got to be worried about, technically. Not everybody else, not your number one contenders, not anything like that, because those guys are going to be given to you by management. The proverbial question mark is Miz, and I think that is who you'd be looking at. Even though that Miz is not on SmackDown anymore, because he's supposed to be on Raw, but where they're already booking that storyline with, where it looks like it's The Fiend and Randy Orton, I would really push, if I was SmackDown, I'd really push, like, hey, have the Jim and Jey Uso from time to time beat up on fucking Miz and Morrison, because they got the briefcase. You know what I mean? It made sense. That's where I'd be going.
We'll be right back.
Yep.
No, there ain't no stopping us. Fly without boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I be moving fast. Call me a shooting star. Let them know who you are. Flying up in a bar. Wish on a star. Time to show them who's in charge. Call me a shooting star. Didn't even get to cross.
That's the Huddle Podcast. You can catch it every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Central Time. All right, we're going to, that is it for SmackDown. So, you want to talk about a little bit about what happened on NXT last night, or AEW real fast?
Sure. NXT, because I actually caught the top 10s of NXT for Halloween Havoc. I do follow them on Instagram and Snapchat.
Let's talk about one thing real fast. NXT actually beat out AEW in the ratings this week, which is big shocker.
Mhm.
Didn't think that would end up happening, but it did. But it was probably because, it was a Halloween Havoc. It was promoted like it was a pay-per-view, so that might have had a lot to do with it. But AEW numbers was down. They were down pretty low. Look, man, in reality, every show is going to have a slipping week.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure Jericho will say it's because the moon aligned with someone's Uranus or some bullshit, and that's why they lost it. But they still won in the demo god, and he's still the demo god. And
the reason why, and if you look at it, if you're looking at let's break down AEW segment to NXT Halloween Havoc. I think the thing that dropped it was the whole Inner Circle House committee meeting. You had different guys show up. Eric Bischoff did show up and whatnot that night, but it just nothing seemed to be out of the ordinary. Like, you heard the matches, and it wasn't like, oh my God, there's a big shocker. People were like, oh, Pentagon versus Kenny Omega. We've seen that Omega's going to win. You know what I mean? Like, this is just, already set place.
You had Gargano defeating Damian Priest. He is your
right.
new NXT North American champion.
The first ever two-time.
I don't like this move. I'm a Johnny Gargano fan. I know he don't have I know he's got his haters. Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of this move. You just put that belt on Priest.
Yeah.
There was no need, I don't think, to give it to Johnny in this instance. I like where Priest was going with it. I thought he looked good with the belt on.
Yep.
He's a good talent. You could have let him hold on to that belt a little bit longer. I think this was premature. This was basically one of those situations where they said, well, we need to have a title change on here because it's Halloween Havoc and it's a big event. What can we do? And they didn't want to.
And they didn't want to move the NXT Heavyweight Championship. So they're like, hey, this is the one. And this is the one that was getting big. Johnny Gargano came out like Jack Skeleton. Later on, Kylie Ray looked like Sally from A Nightmare Before Christmas. I think the biggest play into all of this that to me wasn't a big deal was really the spin the wheel, make a deal. They spun the wheel. Don't get me wrong, Chauncey Blackheart's there. She spins the wheel. But the matches that you got were atypical. Oh, Devil's Playground match.
It's
Devil's Playground match. It's a Falls Count Anywhere's match.
Yeah, because it was all predetermined any damn way on that. So next up, you had the Pat McAfee stood it with Danny Burcham and him out there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're your tag team champions, and he's sitting here running his mouth. And of course, Kyle O'Reilly comes out, followed by Pete Dunne of all people. And I knew, let's go ahead and be real. I knew when I seen Pete Dunne come out, I said, Dunne is about to flip.
Yep.
Undisputed Era has beat Pete Dunne's ass for years. Do you really honestly think that he would go out there and help Kyle O'Reilly just because Kyle's getting, the numbers are against Kyle now? I'm going to go out here and help him. No. I knew that was coming. When it took him too long with the steel chairs, when Kyle kept sitting there holding, I was like, Pete's about to smack him, and Pete popped him. Bow! I was like, I don't like this move. I don't like Pat that much. If you wanted to put Pete with the other two, I would have been fine with that because Danny and they're good. They're a good tag team, man.
Yeah, they're a solid tag team. The thing here is, and I think what they're trying to leave that to, War Games. They want a team Pat O'Reilly versus Undisputed Era. O'Reilly feels like he'd been fucking humiliated by Adam Cole. What better way? This is where it's going to.
Could this be the split of Undisputed Era that's coming? I've been waiting on it because I just know how WWE is. They don't usually keep groups together long. I'm shocked that New Day stayed together as long as they had, or I'm shocked as Undisputed Era's been together as long as they have, and they ain't been split up.
But here's the big thing. I think this is Pete wants his revenge and War Games, and you need guys. If you look at Pat's team, you needed at least one person who was been in that match, and Pete Dunne has been in that match, so it made sense. Let's put an experienced guy on that team so that they can you have that one experienced guy that can tell them, okay, yeah, this is what's going to happen. It's still predetermined, but dudes, this ain't, fun as you think. You know what I mean?
Next up, you had Escobar taking on Jake Atlas.
Mhm.
Escobar, of course, wins, defeats Atlas by pinfall. This was not a great match. I started watching it about went to sleep. And I was not, and that sucks because it's two good talents. It was just one of those things where they was not clicking that night. You had Grimes versus Loomis. I really love this segment they did with Michael Hayes.
Bad Street. Yeah.
That shit was so great, man. And I'm not even really a big Michael Hayes fan. I just love it when they bring old school guys back like that and just stick them in a segment. And it was so damn random. Because did you really expect to see Michael Hayes? Now, if it would have been HBK or Triple H or someone like that you see like kind of here and there, pop up. Like it's been a while since I've seen Michael Hayes like really do any kind of TV time, other than like you get shots of him doing backstage stuff when he's doing stuff like that. But he showed up now, and I about died, dude. I was like,
yeah, because Grimes is like, how am I going to get there? And then all of a sudden this band pulls up, and all you hear is Bad Street.
I love Loomis, man, dude. Loomis is a beast, man. I love his character. I love the way he plays it.
The right person got over in the win, which is Dexter Loomis, and making him look badass. And that's the perfect thing. Even though this was all like a part of it was looked like it was all theatrical shot, and then they mixed it back into a match. They had like zombies got thrown and all this other stuff, but it played out great enough that it wasn't it wasn't overly goofy, but it was just enough that you were like, wow, this is interesting. I like this.
Next up, you had Ripley.
Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, Rhea Ripley.
Taking on Raquel. I think I'm butchering her last name there.
Yeah, I always do. It's Gonzalez. Yeah. However you say her last name. I ain't gonna lie.
She felt the riptide. And
I don't know if they're reaching for new names, but they have been coming up with some difficult names here lately. Like, man, they've been getting like pretty tongue tied with them.
Santino Escobar, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, dude, I don't speak Mexican.
Drake Maverick was dressed up as Hulk Hogan, while Killian Dan was the shop master. And this was great, man. Tommaso Ciampa cut a promo on NXT saying that everyone was complaining too much on social media and not fighting enough. I think, if they really wanted to make Retribution work, they should have put Tommaso Ciampa as their leader.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if they were NXT guys or overlooked guys, and Tommaso Ciampa could have had that. They could have even played it from the storyline that about his neck, him having to drop the NXT title, and he's sour, he's pissed, he's not got the title back because he's not got it back yet. So
I think this would have been okay. Retribution, you take out Mustafa Ali, you put in Tommaso Ciampa, and you take off the masks off these guys. You still call them Retribution.
Stop calling them Slapjack and Whack and Flapjack and Spatula and Blender and whatever else they're damn calling their asses. You had a NXT women's title, tables, ladders, and chairs, or scares they called it. Tables, ladders, and scares. Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae.
This was phenomenal.
I would have probably threw something to the TV if LeRae would have won this match.
Well, it almost looked like that they had some freaking screen guy about to pull her all the way. For the minute that I seen this, I'm like, when I even seen the clip, I'm like, is that Johnny Gargano in a screen costume helping her? And then Chauncey comes out, pulls him off, smuts him into the chairs. She's laying there, like not even knowing that she's like right there. Shirai comes, pushes the ladder over. She goes through a bunch of ladders, and Shirai stays as your women's championship. Almost close to having it the husband and wife champions, which nobody wants. Nobody wants.
No. I'm sorry. I'm just not a LeRae fan. I'm sorry.
But this what I see this now is this plays up good for booking coming to Survivor Series, because you have Asuka, Io Shirai, and Sasha Banks in a triple threat at Survivor Series. Now you get over there, you get your tag team guys. You're going to have, Street Profits. Who's the other ones? A New Day and the current NXT tag team champions. I'd like to see, and now this puts Johnny Gargano and Bobby Lashley and Sami Zayn, your Intercontinental guy, those guys in the mid card. This is going to be a very, that triple threat could be really good. And then you'll have your NXT, Team NXT, Women's NXT, all that, how they're going to play that out. But this really sets up Survivor Series to be very interesting for those triple threat matches, because last year I had last year's one and I enjoyed it. All the matches in that entire thing were all good.
Yeah, very true. The only news I have is that Vince McMahon is still an old man that is out of touch, and he has changed Matt Riddle's name to Riddle.
I've seen that today too. I'm like, what?
I had to do it, man. I had to do it because it's so ridiculous when they do it. And I know Matt Riddle went and was like, it's no big deal, guys. People's been calling me Riddle forever. It's really my last name. But still, though, dude. Like, why?
It's not just that. It's the whole idea of this. They did it with Buddy Murphy. They changed him from Buddy Murphy to Murphy. What are they going to do to Keith Lee? Are they just going to call him Lee? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're doing it now.
Vince already put him in a dress. I mean, so.
Yeah, but when you're looking at the names, like when they're even like compiling the card, instead of Randy Orton, it's Orton, McIntyre. It's singular names. We don't address them by one name. They have, you know what I mean? Not just like we don't talk about Dolph Ziggler. It's just Ziggler. It's Dolph Ziggler. There's a D and an S there. Yeah.
So as far as Matt Riddle's name being changed to Riddle, Vince McMahon. Which I find myself looking at Vince like that a lot. So we're going to take our last commercial break and we'll be back. That's the Geek Gauntlet. I believe y'all were shooting Friday.
We are doing a very special Halloween edition this Friday, but normally it is on Saturday, 9 Central.
Yeah, that it is. Well, it's that time for... Now, of course, these are not to the date. This is what happened in October 20 years ago. 20 years ago, ECW presented the Ultimate Jeopardy from the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You had Taz, who defeated Johnny Smith in a submission match. You also had Bam Bam Bigelow, who defeated Terry Gordo. Devon Dudley defeated Bubba Ray Dudley. Shane Douglas and Pitbull fought to a no contest in the ECW World Television Championship. You had the Sandman Tommy Dreamer, who defeated Brian Lee, Steven Richards. Steven Richards was the replacement for Raven, whose ECW World Heavyweight Championship was at stake. Since Sandman got the pinfall on Richards in the match, he became the new ECW World Heavyweight Champion. The match would have aired on October the 8th, 1996, Hardcore TV, which you can see on the WWE Network. Well, how about that? Also, October was the passing of Brian Pillman. I remember where I was when Brian Pillman was announced dead. Of course, they announced it. I believe it was on Raw.
Yeah.
I believe this is during the time that he was in a storyline with Goldust.
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken. He was found dead in his hotel room. Of course, I believe it was an overdose, was it not?
I do believe
It ended up being an overdose. He had a few demons and stuff like that. I sit around and I think, man, what could have been a Brian Pillman? A lot. Brian's one of those guys that's kind of like Owen. He died way too young.
Mm-hmm.
If those guys would have got to be around during the Attitude Era, you know, some of them early 2000 matches, I mean, you would have got a lot of good matches. You would have got, you could have got Owen working with Eddie. You could have got Brian Pillman working with Eddie. I mean, there would have been a lot of good matches that would have came.
Looking over this, like, if Brian Pillman and Owen had still been around, you probably could have got later on down the road, especially in the Ruthless Aggression era, when, you know, Stone Cold's sort of hype was starting to diminish a little bit. And, you know, Stone Cold was feeling at that point, like, you know, the business wasn't for him. I know they would have easily been able to put Pillman and Stone Cold back together. You had a rehashing of the Hollywood Blondes for a bit, and I think that would have been fun. I think it would have been what Stone Cold would have needed. Longevity would have helped there. Owen, even putting an Owen and Flying Brian together at some point would have been either against each other or as a tag team would have worked very well. Very well. There was a lot of good opportunities. Plus, as we get now today, if they had been still here, just imagine the storylines that they could have wrote with the guys they have now.
Oh man, that would have been great.
especially Brian. I just think of him as being a guy that would have been definitely in the back writing stories, because he was crazy like that. He would give you crazy stories.
Yeah, he is. I think it would have been great, dude. It really sucks. That's going to about almost wrap up our show. Before we go, let me go ahead and post this on up here. This is all the shows that we have through Pinfall Productions. As you say, we have everything from NCAA football on Saturday mornings to get your day started for football. You have the Huddle for the NFL. Paragram Shift, where we talk about all different types of subjects, and we go over old pay-per-views to spotlights on certain people. We did one recently on Paul Heyman. They've had one on Dusty Rhodes and so on. Of course, you got the Geek Gauntlet there, where Mr. Gene there and Will, if you will, HD Morgan. You can get with them and get your geek on. They talk about all kinds of comic book, that type of geeky stuff. So that's all the shows we have there. And if you would like to be involved with Pinfall Productions and you have an idea of a podcast that you might have in mind and you'd like to team up with us, you can get with any of us over here at Pinfall, and we can try to see what we can do for you. What pay-per-view is coming up? What's next? Survivor Series?
Survivor Series is next. That's coming up. They're talking about the 30th anniversary with Undertaker. I hope it's just highlight reel type thing.
I watched the thing the other night after the pay-per-view, the one that with Randy. Did you see that one?
With Randy at Hell in a Cell? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so that one was pretty cool. You know, it's real cool when they go on.
Like I said, the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, like I said last night, Hell in a Cell was not bad. It wasn't like an overly bad. I get it. Everybody gripes on the red cage now, and they call it.
I don't gripe about the red cage. I griped when they had the red cage and the red light for the Fiend. That's what I couldn't stand, was that damn red light that the Fiend was using all the time. I was so happy when I was like, look, we tried this with Kane, guys. We didn't like it then. We don't like it now. Okay.
The only gripe I ever had was in any Hell in a Cell match is when you had Seth Rollins and the Fiend, and the Fiend introduces the mallet, and then that's what's going to get him disqualified in a no disqualification match.
They are kind of special from time to time, Gene, over there at WWE.
You know what I mean? It's like you just had an I Quit match in the Hell in a Cell. You have the girls go like beat themselves to like almost not bloody pulps, but if there were allowed blood, there would have been. And yet you can't have the Fiend hit Seth Rollins with a mallet. That's where you draw the line. Like there, yeah. Very
true. All right, guys. Appreciate your time joining us tonight. Next week, I don't know what we'll be reviewing. Me and Gina figure it out. I might put a poll up this go around. I might go ahead and actually put that up early. I have a tendency of putting them up late. Maybe get it up early. Maybe that way some people have a full 4 or 5 days to vote instead of like a day and a half.
Yeah.
So, so long from
remember, watch our pages, and hopefully there's no bad streets, and we don't just show up like PSAs out of nowhere.
Very true. I'll see everyone Saturday, college football Saturday. Thank you from everybody here at Pinfall. Y'all have a good night.
So bad outside the bar, heading out as far away I can. Heart is pounding, got so damn out of hand. Doing 90 through the city night. Nothing's ever gonna be alright. Life will never be what it was. Hands are shaking, 'cause now my future is crashing down on me. They try to kill me when I fought back. Break the scars with a baseball bat. The justice will never make this right. I need to run and stay out of sight. And no choice, it was me or them. Now for a lifetime I'm condemned. I could forget my old set way of life. I'll go to prison or die by the night.